History is a set of lies agreed upon. Hello, my name is Dylan and welcome to my channel. Some of you may know me from my other channel called Going Postal. It's a podcast about conspiracies, but this channel in particular, I'm going to dedicate to my favorite conspiracy of all time. There's not really a name for it, honestly. It's just kind of our history and how we've been lied to from the start. Even before JFK, 9/11, before some of the stuff that you've heard us talk about on Going Postal. This is before all of that. This is where we came from, how we got this land of North America, how we got here, who was here before us, and what they built. I'm going to go town by town, city by city, and just show you the old world buildings that you didn't really know existed. How you've seen them every day. You've seen pictures of them. You just assumed that they built them in the past. You didn't really put two and two together, but the timelines of these buildings just don't add up. It's crazy. The size of these buildings, and they're getting them done in 1 to 2 years. Just all the planning, all the construction, pouring cement, pouring all the concrete, getting all the wood put up, the roofs, the walls, everything. They're getting it all done in 2 years. Giant buildings. The timelines just do not add up. They want to tell us that we had this lack of technology, we had this lack of drills, lack of power equipment. We horse and carriages, folks, horse and carriages, and they want us to believe that we built these massive skyscrapers. And I want to start off with this video and just show you where I really put two and two together. It was the first city that I really saw the old world buildings for myself, and it was St. Louis, Missouri. I've always been interested in ancient history. I've always been interested in the Egyptians, seeing the pyramids, the Colosseum. I've always been interested in old buildings, but I really just made the connection that I have these old buildings right in front of me in towns, cities near me, and cities all over North America. There's a just corrupt version of history, a just fabricated version of history. We did not build these buildings. We did not build these buildings, folks. We inherited them. I don't know where we came from. I don't know how long ago we inherited them, but we inherited them almost for sure. The narrative that we've been given is just complete horseshit, folks. Complete horseshit, complete rubbish. Wad it up, throw it in the trash. I feel the same way about these buildings that I do us going to the moon. And if we can't do it again today, then did we really do it back then? I mean, the Van Allen radiation belt. Wait. Whoa. That's a story for another video. Where the fuck were we? Oh yeah, St. Louis, Missouri. I guess let me just start it off with the civil building in St. Louis and just show you what we're working with here. I mean, look at the pillars on this building. Look at how high these pillars had to go. Construction started for it in 1928. They had the resources, the time to put all these pillars on top of it. They had the resources to put a giant pyramid on top of it with a sphinx on top of it, actually, perfectly in line with the arch. And I started looking for construction photos of this, and I could find literally nothing. I found almost nothing. Some pictures, just a couple, and one of them, let me just show you my favorite picture out of everything I found. I mean, look at the footing on this guy, and there's no other photos of how they got these columns up there. No other photos showing how they built this upper section of this building. And just look at the footing of this guy. Would that ever fly in safety procedures today? Would that ever go? Would anyone ever work on these pillars like this? You decide, folks, you decide. And this is really the building that got me thinking, and let me just show you some more examples of what I'm talking about. The Anheuser-Busch Brewery is another example of what I'm talking about, another massive set of buildings. And of course you need just so many buildings to brew alcohol. You need a clock tower, you need all these buildings to do so many different things, just making alcohol. That's it, folks, making alcohol, and you need this many buildings to do it. Another example of what I'm talking about is Union Station in St. Louis. Construction started for Union Station in 1891, and it lasted just 3 short years to build just a huge building with some intricate ass detail inside of it that's just beautiful. Just the symmetry is unbelievable for the time with the lack of construction tools that they used. And Eads Bridge, I mean, look at this bridge. Built in 1875, folks. 1875 with no construction tools, horse and buggy. People just have no hammer and nails, folks. Hammer and nails, and they're putting together something like this. It's just unbelievable. And let me say that word again. Unbelievable. We're so focused today on the present and on the future that we never really stop and think about the past. And we don't think about these buildings that were built in the past and just how exactly they built them. If you look at these buildings all around the globe, it looks like an advanced past human civilization that was worldwide. It was global. Their building style resonates with buildings that are all over the world, that are still standing today. They're all over the world. And let me just prove what I'm talking about, folks. I'm going to show you 3 pictures. 3 pictures of just random buildings that I found. They're from Rome, Greece, and St. Louis, Missouri, the United States. Take your time, folks. Take your time. Gaze, gander. And just tell me where you think they came from. Each one from a different place. Where do you think it came from? The buildings do sure look similar. But where? Where did they come from, folks? Where are these buildings at in the world? Do you have your answers? Well, I've done a trick. I've tricked you, folks. They're actually all from St. Louis, Missouri, from the 1904 World's Fair, the Louisiana Purchase Exposition, or most commonly referred to as the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair. These buildings were built in such a short amount of time, it is unbelievable. I've said that word and I'll say it again. It is unbelievable the amount of time that some of these buildings were built. And they say that these are temporary buildings set up just for the event itself. What about these buildings looks temporary at all? They selected their architects in 1901, and by 1904 they set up all of these buildings? Are you kidding me? Some people may try to argue that these came from the previous World's Fair in 1850, but then what is temporary about these buildings if it's going to last 50 whole years, 54 whole years, if it's going from 1850 to 1904? What is temporary about these buildings at all? These buildings are massive. They say they use some type of special plaster to get all these buildings up, but we never see any construction photos of them pouring concrete, any construction photos of them mixing concrete. They're supposedly using a horse and buggy at this time, folks, and they're able to build these massive structures. So, folks, what do you gather from these pictures that you see here today? What can you make of this information? Because what I believe these World's Fairs are for, they were put on to mask over the old world architecture that was already there, that we already inherited. We were told that there was just Indians roaming this land before we got here, but that is wrong. I believe there was a past advanced civilization that built these buildings, and then we took credit for them ourselves. We covered it up. We took credit for them. We said they were temporary buildings. We put up a couple buildings of our own just to say that we did it. Some fucking dog shit buildings compared to this massive architecture that you see here in front of your eyes. And they just masked it, covered it up, and then took it down. They took down our history. They took down any remnants of the ancient civilization that was here before us, and they took credit for it. They took credit for building this country, even though it's all lies. Our history is lies. Everything that they've told us in these textbooks are lies. It wasn't just Indians. It wasn't just Indians in huts living off the land. There was an advanced ancient civilization living in North America. Their buildings, the buildings of this ancient civilization, can be seen all over the globe. And specifically with the St. Louis World's Fair, they used it to indoctrinate us into our sugary diets that we have today. They introduced hot dogs at this World's Fair. They introduced hamburgers. Dr. Pepper was actually first introduced to the masses at this World's Fair. And what do they gain from covering this up? Well, I'll tell you. They gain everything. They inherited this. They pass it on to their children. We don't get a fair shake. We start with nothing and they start with everything. They used this World's Fair to draw in the masses, to show them the propaganda that they had cooking up, to show them the history that they created, the history that they wanted them to believe. They wanted people to be obedient. They wanted people to listen. They don't want people acting out. And they wanted to give them these sugary snacks to make them happy and warm inside and not fight against the man, fight against the rules that they had created. So what was my purpose of making this video today? Well, I just wanted to show you that the history that you've been given was just a complete work of fiction. Heroes and villains were created, fabricated out of thin air to fit a narrative contrary to reality. And I'm trying to just lift over the veil of reality and show you just what I've been seeing and what I've been thinking. These buildings, they were taken from us. They never should have been torn down. They were torn down to cover a history, to cover up real reality. And I think real reality should be shown to the masses, to be shown to everybody. And some websites that I'm posting on right now actually don't agree that reality should be shown to everyone. But I hope that this video can make its way to the masses. I hope this video can wake at least one person up. If anything, at least wake one person up, show at least one person the lies that they've been fed. I hope you all have a great day. I love you, and thanks for checking out my very first video.